Come with us now, if you dare, down a rickety staircase into a dank, dark basement. What awaits? The Saturday Night Freak Show.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Saturday Night Freak Show podcast.
Yes.
We're a movie review podcast that's recorded every week, and you probably found us on Apple Podcasts, or possibly on Castbox, or possibly on Stitcher.
There you go. You always leave out Stitcher. Stitcher's a big one.
Radio, or iHeart Radio, or YouTube.
YouTube. You should go to YouTube.
Yeah, because I've noticed the reviews on those platforms have kind of ceased for a little bit. We kind of hit our peak. They were coming in for a little while, and it was good. So, folks, we need you to do us a favor. In order to achieve our dream and yours of complete, total sonic oral domination, we need you to go over to wherever you found us, give us a like, a star rating, or a review, because all of that helps those algorithms shuffle us up toward the top, and then we can achieve that goal.
I would like to dominate the oral.
I was gonna say I can't really get past Colin saying oral domination.
Well, how else do you say that? Oral? Isn't that what I said?
Oral. More of an oral.
Okay, it's very
It
Midwestern.
sounds the same, Sean.
Oral. I'm just saying both.
Auroral?
When Colin
Oral.
says it, he's saying the A-U-R-A-L, oral.
Yeah. What was Sean saying?
Oral. Just sounds weird.
Sounds like an all. All? That A-W-L?
Welcome to
Oral.
Phonics, the podcast.
Yeah, okay, so what we do is we watch a movie that's chosen round robin by one of the internet radio superstars.
Hallie.
Sean.
Michaela.
And I'm Colin. And tonight we watched a movie that was chosen by
Michaela, what did we watch tonight?
The chair squeak is
You're just
appropriate
gonna
for
squeak it.
this.
It does. Let's all make whale sound right now. I'll squeak it out.
We watched Orca, the killer whale, from 1977.
directed by
Michael Anderson, who
we would know from.
honestly, he has over 50 directing credits. He did
Okay.
a lot
Very
of
true.
movies from like 1950 to like 1990.
He did a couple we know.
Yeah, the original Logan's Run and the original Around the World in 80 Days.
Okay.
Right.
Really?
He did.
Yes, those are his two biggest ones. So
All right.
I like the way you prefaced it with the original Logan's Run, because
Yeah.
they've been talking about remaking that thing for like 30
Yep.
fucking years
Yep.
now, and still
Yep.
haven't done it. There is one Logan's Run.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know that they need to remake that.
I know. That's why I'm like, who?
now that you said that, it's going to happen.
Yeah,
so thanks.
It is. I mean,
You put it out there.
Well,
My
Bryan
fault.
Singer's been trying to do it, I know, for a while. And
Let
somebody
him
else?
keep trying.
Yeah.
Let's not. Let's just not let him do anything.
The
Well,
whole
that's why I
idea-
said let him keep trying, because no one's going to let him.
no.
So
Logan's Run for you kids is once you're 30, the state comes to kill you, and you have to. Logan decides to run. He's not going to let it. Because he's the guy who kills people.
it's a lot like In Time, huh?
Oh, so
Yeah, I know. We've basically seen this
So
movie
the
before.
guy who kills people turns 30, and then he's got to run.
He's
It's like
got to
Looper.
run. Yeah. Well, yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Logan's Run.
So we've seen it done better
Where's he going to run to?
already.
Outside of civilization. Into the zone. You know, that people in the 70s, they went to the zone.
They just become drifters.
Yeah. Outside of the gates. Well, Judge Dredd did that in the 90s.
They
but-
did. You go out into the sand
Yeah.
with Rob Schneider.
Right. So this movie called Orca. Wait, is it Orca, the
Orca.
killer whale,
Yes.
or is it Orca?
It depends. It depends on what you're reading and when you're reading it. Sometimes it's Orca, sometimes it's Orca, the killer whale.
This movie
Okay.
tells us it's
So-
Orca.
That's right. The on-screen title was Orca.
Mhm.
And what's an orca?
It's
killer whale.
It is
Ironically,
as far as I know, it's like there's only a handful of carnivorous whales, and this is the biggest and baddest of them all. They're
Right.
pretty brutal in real life. We were talking off mic about how they do like play with their live food before they eat it, and they don't really feel bad about anything they do.
Is it a fish or
No,
a
it's a
mammal?
mammal.
You ever seen him whip a seal around? They just like,
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I've never
it's
seen
not-
an orca do anything. I know there's Shamu, right? Was the orca that was in, with the killer whale that was in SeaWorld famously. What was that documentary?
Keiko was the other one?
Blackfish. It's really depressing, and it'll ruin your
Yeah.
life.
Who's
Yeah.
that about?
That's about that's about
SeaWorld and
SeaWorld in
SeaWorld,
general.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not about the orcas.
No, well, it
Well,
is.
yeah.
Blackfish. It's
Yeah.
Okay.
all about the orcas at SeaWorld.
Yeah.
It's mostly talks about the ones that have
trainers.
killed the trainers.
Mm.
And it shows some like footage of them like like you can tell like someone's about to die in the next frame, and it's really hard to watch. Everyone should watch Blackfish. It'll change your life.
Yep.
It'll absolutely change your life, but you will see things you can't unsee watching it for sure. So there's just like one scene where Trainer's like swishing her foot around, and like the orca's like playing with her at first, and then starts like tugging on her foot and starts tugging a little harder, and she ended up dying, and like you just can tell like
They
she's
grab 'em
seconds
and pull
away
'em
from
under,
like
and they just keep doing it. They like let them float up a little bit, pull them back
Yep.
down under.
It's
This is why
disturbing.
I don't have this fucking problem in my life. Like I'm not
Whales trying to
I'm not
kill
gonna
you?
die from a killer whale. You know why? Because it's a fucking killer whale. And I don't go putting my foot in its mouth.
well, but
Like,
this was
I
their
don't-
job, Colin.
But those people are dumb.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I don't disagree, but that's why they have this problem, because it's literally their job to have this problem. So, but the one girl was killed because he was pulling around by her
Overconfident.
paytail underwater.
yeah.
So,
Oh,
and
I remember
and
that.
that was
That's
at a
the one I
live
saw.
show in front of an
Yeah,
audience that
yeah,
he killed her.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
it was real
remember that.
fucked up.
Uh-huh.
So, and that was not that long ago. This is very recently that happened. So,
That's like 20 years ago now.
no,
I'm sure
it was
it's not,
within the
but
past
yeah.
6-7 years, probably.
No, really? Was
yes, that's what the Blackfish documentary is. Very recent.
it?
and that's
feels-
what-
It was
about
on our,
her.
It was on our like best of list for the year,
Yeah.
like 3 years ago. 4
Yeah.
years ago.
Okay. So this movie is part of Michaela's summer series, which is about what?
Man versus nature movies.
Right.
We previously, if you haven't caught up with this, you can listen to our Man's Best Friend was the first one.
Killer
A
dog.
Killer
It
Dog.
seems like so long
Killer
ago.
Robo
And then we
dog.
did and Kingdom of the Spiders was our last entry
Killer tarantulas.
versus William Shatner.
Yes.
And then now we're finally doing like an aquatic
We're in the
version.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, this is Jaws week. We just were
Yes.
we hosted a screening of Jaws that went over like gangbusters.
Boy, it went well.
Madison,
Yeah.
Wisconsin this past week. So we're in the
definitely
come
have
down.
us back again.
So now we're watching Jaws spin-offs, of which there's a whole shitload.
I feel like we all said that really sarcastically, and they're going to think it went really bad. We just don't know how.
We just don't know, because at the time we're recording this, we don't know how it's going to go.
So, welcome to the last episode.
I
of the
just didn't want to
Saturday Night
jinx
Freak Show.
us.
Insert canned applause. You know?
If we record it, maybe you've heard the podcast by now. Who knows? Jaws is a tonier movie than usually that we deal with here, because usually we watch movies like Orca. You don't watch Jaws. You watch the movie that was inspired by Jaws.
Right. You watch Jaws: The Revenge.
There was a shitload of Jaws spin-offs in the wake of that movie's monstrous success, including films such as...
Grizzly.
It's interesting that you say it, because Grizzly borrows basically the
the
structure
same
of
movie.
Jaws. Yeah, I mean, it's three guys in a helicopter, not a boat, trying to track down by the end of it.
That
With
seems easier.
Christopher George,
Yeah.
who has been on this show before, the show Pieces that we did.
Right.
But I mean, the Italians ripped it off. They did Tentacles. Tentacles is about the killer squid. You got probably the most famous Jaws ripoff is Piranha.
Yep.
It's sad that
I forget that's a ripoff because
I don't.
tiny.
I
little
don't know
fish.
if like I was confused because I don't know how many people know that movie outside of people like us.
Really?
Piranha?
Yeah.
I wasn't around when that movie came out. I don't know how much of a hit
No,
it
but I mean,
was,
even but just is that the first? I just figured that was the first
No.
one that would other.
I don't know how many people
aquatic
have
movies.
seen it. at
yeah,
this
that's what I'm
point.
saying. I don't know how
Yeah.
popular.
You say
it
Piranha,
was.
and everyone's going to start thinking
Well,
about
then they
new
made
Piranha.
the remake.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, so that's
Piranha 3D.
That's
who
what I'm
knows
saying.
how
I
many
think
people
people.
have
I think
seen
people know
Piranha.
Piranha 3D, but I don't know if they know the original.
No, nobody's seen Killer Fish with.
No.
no,
No.
nobody's seen
No,
Killer Fish.
no.
Colin's probably seen Killer
Yeah.
Fish.
What's the $6 million man? What's his name?
Steve Austin.
Yeah, but the actor Lee Majors. There we go.
No,
Lee
I-
Majors.
Yeah. James
Oh, yeah,
Cameron's Piranha 2. Okay, it keeps
Yeah.
on going. Whatever happened to Moose Jaws?
I don't know.
Oh.
It's like it got sidetracked.
Do
there
people
for a
know what
minute.
we're talking about?
I mean, I do. It's Kevin Smith's third Canadian trilogy film.
After Tusk and
I hate everything you
Yoga
just said.
Hosers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was going to do Moose
God, I
Jaws, which
fucking hate
was
his movies.
Just Jaws, but
Jaws
a moose.
with a moose. Did you know, Sean? Because I didn't know this until I watched something else where it was like, yeah, we actually. Oh, Wolf Cop. Wolf Cop filmed in a town called
Amity.
Moose Jaw.
Ah.
There's a Moose Jaw in Saskatchewan or whatever.
There's a Moose
Of
Jaw
course there is.
restaurant
Where else would there be
Yeah.
one?
in Wisconsin Dells.
Mm-hmm.
So,
It's a pretty good restaurant.
It is a good restaurant. They have good beer cheese
Yeah.
soup.
Mm-hmm.
They have good food.
It's good stuff.
Their
fine.
pizza's
Yeah.
pretty good too.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So,
Honestly, I don't think I've had anything bad there.
No, it's pretty good.
Moose Jaw?
Yeah,
No,
Moose Jaw.
it's pretty good. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to have to hit that up.
It's
Because
really
I always
good.
end up at the Paul Bunyan restaurant.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The logging
Yeah,
camp
no,
or
I'm
whatever.
sorry,
Oh, yeah, I've
Colin.
been there
Colin,
too. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. It is not a restaurant. It is called a cook shanty. That is what they call it.
Yeah.
You're
it's like-
eating at a
It's
place
always
called a
fucking
cook shanty.
But I love just what you're saying there. A cook shanty.
Yeah, I want to
Imagine-
eat at a cook shanty.
Yeah, because it's
I
this
don't.
is where-
It's got some
when
greasy
you're out
ass
there logging,
food.
you know, like during the day.
That place is
cutting fucking-
disgusting.
Yeah,
I've
that
eaten
food's
there.
served on like a tin plate.
Yeah, but it's like that. It's like you're in the hall.
Yeah.
It's
I
like,
know. That's
the
what makes
same
it.
plate you used to pan for gold.
Yeah.
Right.
Then you
just
eat off
wash it off a
it.
little bit and you eat off
I
it.
ate there once, never
I want to
again.
go back.
And what
go to
Black,
Moose Jaw.
Black Bart's is the place that brings your food on the train, right?
Yeah.
Shit, I gotta
Yeah.
go there. If
Yeah.
that's the thing, I gotta go there.
If you all haven't been in Wisconsin Dells, it's a magical place. Go check it out. It is it's
Magical by
You
Midwest
just said
standards.
y'all.
It is a kitschy land of
It is the
entertainment.
Disney World of the Midwest.
Disney World
But
or
it-
Las Vegas?
I think
no
it's- no,
gambling,
it's
but
like-
it looks like it's a '60s era
It's like
town.
the-
Yeah,
Reno of
it's
the Midwest.
It's
Yeah.
family friendly. It's
Yeah,
family friendly.
it is.
Las Vegas is what it is. It's like the family version of Las Vegas, but it has not changed in 40 years.
No, a
I
bunch
was
of
like,
water
we are making
parks
this sound
and,
so great.
Oh, yeah, I
It
wanna
is
go
great.
back. Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's like how to describe
pretty
it? I don't
great.
know. It's
Kitsch.
it's kitschy.
Kitschy.
It's
Kitsch.
great
Oh, it's
and it's
kitsch.
kitschiness.
And the Haunted Mansion has been there since I was a kid, and
Mhm.
that fucking thing is
It's like they made Chuck E. Cheese into a town,
made.
but better.
Yeah,
I always wondered what it'd be like to grow up there. Could you imagine living in a town
Oh
like that?
boy, what life must you live when you go outside of that?
Oh, I was
It's
gonna say
like-
every other town must be so boring in comparison to the town
Right.
you live in.
Right?
it would feel like you
I
grew
know,
up in
'cause you've
Midwestern
got-
Vegas.
well,
You've got everything.
and
yeah.
you've got Dells.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
mean, not every place has Dells.
Mhm.
Okay, so tonight we watched this movie, spawned by Jaws. This came out 2 years after Jaws.
Correct.
The hubris of the filmmakers. Oh, so this is a Dino De Laurentiis production.
Yes, it is.
Who, of course, Dino De Laurentiis, famous Italian producer, basically said,
you know what the Italians do?
"Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
They
like,
rip shit
this,
off.
this Jaws thing is a thing, and we got to make a
Is this a
Jaws.
cigar in your hand? that you
Fine,
have
yeah,
in here?
this is
it's
a cigar.
Like, yeah.
Find me the next giant killer fish."
His words were, "Find me what could kill Jaws and
I was
make a
making
movie
this
about
up, but
that."
apparently,
No,
there you
yes.
go. I'm in the headspace of
Yep.
Dino De Laurentiis.
There you go.
This is the guy who gave Stephen King his shot at directing with Maximum Overdrive. Sorry.
Wow,
he
so
made-
we have him to thank for that
Oh, yeah.
amazing movie.
Yes.
All right.
I would cast you as a skeevy
Stevie, you
movie-
couldn't
movie
direct
producer.
a movie. Yeah. He also did the big budget King Kong movie. Okay. Barbarella. That was his. I mean, Dino De
Barbarella.
Laurentiis, legendary producer. So he sees Jaws and goes, "I need a Jaws."
He applies the canon method, basically, right?
Yeah,
Before
yeah,
canon existed, he takes the canon method. Like, we can do that.
Yep. So everybody's looking for like, what's the next like killer fish movie? I mean, there's Grizzly, there's Kingdom of the Spiders, Empire of the Ants, giant monster films, which is like they did this in the 50s, only they were irradiated.
Yeah.
Right.
This is kind of nature attacking on its own volition. Like the things in nature are scary enough as they are. Did somebody make a Barracuda movie?
I'm
think
sure.
I
so.
think there's Barracuda.
I think, yeah.
There is a movie called Barracuda.
There's a
Yeah.
movie called
It's
Barracuda.
that whole don't ask a question unless you know the answer.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
there
very
is,
true.
but I
That's
have
the-
never seen it.
Yeah. But you're not
Somebody
in court,
yells
so you're fine.
Barracuda. Everybody goes, huh? What? Somebody yells shark.
You yell shark. They come around.
Barracudas are disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
I've
literally
never
eat
seen one.
shit.
Is there
They
a
literally eat
jellyfish
shit.
movie? Killer
Oh,
jellyfish.
probably.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Fucking
Ooh,
wraps
that
around
is
your
scary
legs.
though, because like sometimes you can't see them.
Yeah, because they're
You know,
clear.
that's
Yeah.
and like you just feel them, but it's too late. Yeah, no,
The
that actually
Sphere, which we watched here on this show, where they all
the
just kept
sphere.
going all over the place.
Oh my
Bring
god,
back
you
the
remind me how
Sphere.
much I hated that movie. Now,
Yeah.
it sucked.
Um,
Some of
Totally
her
sucked.
books falling out of cabinets.
But this movie, when I said it's hubris, basically it starts off when you go and sit down and pay your money, and the Paramount logo comes up, and it's Richard Harris, right?
Mm-hmm.
Famous for being Dumbledore.
Dumbledore.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The first Dumbledore.
Dumbledore.
first
Until he
Let's be
died.
clear.
The
Let's be
better
clear.
Yeah.
Dumbledore.
He is the better Dumbledore.
Yeah, but this guy's been around for like 100 fucking years making movies.
Yeah.
We've all seen him in A Man Called Horse. Anybody?
Oh,
A Man Called
yeah.
Horse.
Never saw
Why
the
do you
horse.
wait? Do you know A Man Called Horse?
Mhm.
Why
I've
do you
seen
know
it
that
once.
movie?
I had to watch it.
Why?
For film school.
Oh, was it
Yes.
really?
Yeah. I had to
Why
watch a
was he
lot of
called-
stuff in film school.
This may be a big question regarding this film. Why is he called Horse?
Because the Sioux that abduct him, he's like this English aristocrat. The Sioux abduct him. They kill everybody else, but he's got blonde hair, so they got. But the movie's famous.
Was
and
he-
the image is they do some ritual where they have to drive like spikes through his pectoral muscles and hoist him up in the fucking air. So he's hanging by his. It's on the poster, and that's like the moment that everybody remembered from this. It's like 71.
It's on the DVD cover, I think.
Yeah,
even.
because that's the moment. Like,
Was he a boy named Sue before he was a man called Horse?
that was pretty good. There's a Return of a Man Called Horse. There's 3 of those movies.
Jeez,
yeah, I know.
wow.
Richard Harris. Richard Harris is the father of Jared.
Harris. Yeah.
Yeah, who we just saw in Chernobyl. Good actor. Is Richard Harris? I don't know if I've ever seen him in a sympathetic role. Okay, Dumbledore.
Yeah.
Sure, but that's late stage stuff.
Yeah, famous Hollywood drunk.
Oh, yeah?
Really?
Oh yeah, Richard Harris. He's legendary.
Oh, damn. I had no idea. I
It's
don't
like
know much
him
about
and
Richard
Peter
Harris.
O'Toole. These are of that era. They're Richard Harris told
I
a
was gonna
story.
say, weren't they all?
At
Yeah,
that
I
point,
think so.
Everybody
Really? That was just part of the
socially
job.
accepted at that point. Yeah.
Is it part of the job or it's just part of being an actor? At some point,
It's a
you
benefit
go like,
of the job, I
Yeah.
think, at that point.
yeah. Well, it's a benefit if you can like act while drunk and pull it off.
Right.
But like all these guys end up being like crazy alcoholics because I think basically the profession is like, what am I doing with my life? I'm pretending to be other people. This isn't real work, and then they go and souse themselves into oblivion.
That's kind of like Christian Bale's perspective on acting. Not so much the alcoholism, but Christian Bale thinks that they are ridiculously overpaid for what they do, and that it's ridiculous that anyone would pay them the amount of money they get paid to do what they do. And so he takes his job very seriously because of that, and he thinks that like, well, if they're gonna pay me this much, I'm gonna give them every penny's worth.
Well,
and that's
yeah.
why he goes the distance on
yeah.
everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess like the opposite way you go of that, it's just like become an alcoholic. You either become Christian Bale or you become an alcoholic.
Or you become like
Michael Caine.
an advocate for some. You pick like your charity thing, and
Yeah.
To make it worthwhile.
Well, you. I think actors do have this kind of thing at some point in their life where they go like, "What the fuck am I doing? This is like
Mhm.
not."
Oh,
There's
sure.
people like out there fighting fires and like putting
I-
themselves
you know
on the
what,
line.
If you don't have a job of substance at all, I think
I was gonna-
that happens to you.
I was gonna say, we're
What the fuck am I
talking
doing?
about Hollywood. Like, I feel that way. All
I
the
think-
fucking time.
I
Are you
think-
serious?
Me
What am
too.
I giving society right now?
I think-
Nothing.
I think about that all the time. I'm like, if society ever collapses and we're in like an apocalypse situation, I am fucking useless.
Yeah.
Because like my job would mean nothing
Me
in
too.
an
I have
apocalypse
no
situation.
discernible talent
Yeah.
that's going to help anybody in the rebellion.
I'm
Yeah.
saying,
but what
yeah.
are you
Maybe
talking
propaganda.
about? The governor on The Walking Dead, he was a copier salesman. Or no, that was the guy from The Postman. Sorry, who became like basically.
So
the
two
governor.
totally different things.
All right, so the governor was some like salesman or something.
Sure. So
So who knows? In the post-apocalyptic, you
You're
could
gonna
be
be-
Tina Turner.
you're
You
gonna
could
be
be
a fucking
running
asshole. You're gonna
Thunderdome.
be.
Yeah. 2 men go in, 1 man leaves. Okay, we're way off fucking base here.
All right.
Richard
Michaela's
Harris.
just
Orca.
wearing black eye makeup.
Yeah.
Fucking killing dudes.
Right?
Shit. She was not like this in the normal
See,
life.
then she's like, no, but I've lived my entire fucking life for this moment.
And you're just like everywhere you go, you're roller skating. Stabbing with
In the
spears and
roller
shit.
Yes.
derby
Oh my
post-apocalyptic future.
There it is.
Richard,
I'm sorry, you just wrote a log line for a movie we're gonna make. The roller derby post-apocalyptic.
It exists.
Future?
It's called Solar Babies.
Yeah.
and it's terrible.
I was gonna say that's a movie.
Yeah.
Shit. We can do it.
with
It's already
Jamie
happened.
Gertz and Jason Patrick.
Yeah, it's really bad.
So in the beginning of this movie, it's hubris. Basically, I'm saying that it starts off with a great white shark. Richard Harris is a fisherman, and he's out hunting this great white shark that is trying to attack his boat. His boat's called what? The
Bumpo.
Bumpo.
It's
The Bumpo.
stupid. It
Bumpo.
doesn't mean anything.
No, it's dumb.
because the boat in Jaws was called the Orca. So we got the Bumple. We got
So
Just call it Jaws.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say, shouldn't it be like the shark,
Amity?
like
Yeah, the
something
Amity.
like yeah,
Bruce.
Bruce.
Bruce, yeah.
This is, my boat, Bruce.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it so there's a great white shark, and I can see this movie is like going like, well, they're fucking had a rubber shark in their goddamn movie. We're actually gonna go enlist Ron Taylor and his wife Valerie to go shoot off the Australian coast. They're gonna go shoot like real sharks. The sharks in this do look real because they probably are.
They are
They
real.
are real.
The sharks are
Just
real.
all real.
Yep.
They're real.
And in a fantastic scene, which none of us could have predicted, a great fucking killer whale, great killer whale, I don't think that's a thing, but anyway, attacks the great white shark and fucking knocks it right out of the goddamn water and kills the thing. Big pool of blood. Like, what could do that? It's a killer whale. So right there, we're like, oh shit. Fucking, we just saw Jaws like 2 years ago, right? 1975.
And this movie's saying, fuck Jaws right
That's
off the bat.
right off the bat,
Mhm.
which I do like the dig that Jaws 2, which came out in 1978, the following year, has a fucking great killer whale washing up at the shore with chunks taken out of it.
This is a thing I didn't get till just now. We have never seen Orca, so I'm like, oh, wow, everybody's just digging at each other.
Yeah.
That's great.
Jaws 2's like, no, who's the
Like,
boss?
no.
Yeah, Jaws is the boss.
I do
Bruce, too.
love that the orcas in this movie can never go for a direct kill. They have to like fuck with you a little bit first and kind of like toss you around a little bit. Like even the shark, like it throws it up in the air and it lands on the shore.
Yeah.
Like if it had bones, they would be broken.
Yeah.
And then it kills it. Like it has to fuck with you a little bit first.
Yeah, it uses a lot. There's a lot of tail action in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Tail action.
Colin's doing a hand gesture for
that's
tail
right.
action.
I'm trying to make the wind. Still can't hear it. So anyway, the whole gist of this movie gets set up pretty much in the opening couple of moments where our fisherman, he's kind of like a Quint, right? He's a dogged. Like,
They want you to think that, yes.
Right. He's a man of the sea, and he has an accent because he's from England or from Ireland.
He's Irish. He's like if Brendan Gleeson was Quint.
Yeah, he wants to catch a killer whale because imagine the payoff.
Yep.
Catch a killer whale.
He's trying to catch the
Well,
shark.
they're trying to
for a
catch the
similar
shark, yeah.
payoff, and,
Yeah.
He's just like, wait,
Oh,
the
that's
killer
right.
whale
Yeah.
is king.
He
so.
fucked it up, so.
But Charlotte Rampling, who's in
She
this
fucked it up.
movie, back in the Charlotte Rampling days, right? She is a
Oceanographer.
Oceanographer.
We're just gonna- yep, there you go.
She lectures about stuff, so she has some sort of qualification, I guess.
I think she's like a marine biologist.
Yeah, I like that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oceanographer. She's a
Well,
marine
that's
biologist.
a thing too.
There we go. Yeah, but isn't that like a cartographer? You chart
No.
okay.
Cartographer's a map maker.
All right. That's also true.
Marine biologist.
Is that a job that still exists? Cartography?
Cartographer?
Haven't we kind of mapped
I'm
out
sure-
I thought
everything?
they all
The
work for just
Google
Google now.
I was
cartographer.
going to say, I'm sure Google has one.
Yeah, do
right?
they have a well, we got to find these guys.
If you're a cartographer, write in.
Yeah.
Tell us what your job situation's like.
And then Bing's trying to do it too, so they have their own. Yeah, so
God,
Bing
can you imagine a sadder job than being the Bing cartographer?
I'm the Bing. What do you do? I make maps for Bing. I'm gonna go kill
Bing?
myself now.
I'm sorry, Bing?
Bing.
Bing.
Well, better
Bing.
that than Yahoo.
Alta Vista?
I used to make it. I used to make
Or
make
Excite.
apps
Are they still
for Ask Jeeves, but
Jeeves got laid off. It's just Ask now.
yeah, Ask.com now it's
The MapQuest
Yeah.
guy is just down drinking at the bar.
yeah.
Well,
I used to be good.
Everyone used me. Everyone.
You remember the dark ages when we used to print out MapQuest directions?
Oh,
Yes.
They were always wrong.
God, yeah.
They were
Turned
always
by
wrong.
turn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
MapQuest. Yeah,
Shit.
Magellan.
That was dark
Anybody?
time.
Magellan?
No, you had-
Magellan, yeah.
My parents still use MapQuest.
Well, I mean,
Sweet Jesus.
Yeah. They used to have AOL too.
They need to move
remember
forward.
when we didn't have the internet and couldn't do that?
remember when you
Actual
had?
fucking maps?
You remember Rand McNally ruled the world? Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, the whole dramatic engine of this
Sorry,
movie
folks.
is installed by Richard Harris in his I gotta catch this thing. He ends up roping a female orca.
He's trying
Right.
to catch the
But
mail.
when he's trying to catch a male and he nicks the fin of the male with the
does.
dart
That's
and hits
important.
the female.
So we'll be able to
Yeah.
remember the nicked fin male.
Yeah.
the
well,
rest of
and
the
now
movie.
you've pissed them both off because you hit them
Right.
both. So
Yeah.
And he hits the female with the harpoon.
I know,
and
but
she
this is the
starts
thing. Like,
screaming.
is this how you do it?
He's a
You-
bad
you
shot,
go, like,
apparently.
I want this thing for captivity. So instead of putting it in a net or doping it or something,
Well,
no,
I
it
mean,
was
I'm not a
trank. They
fisherman.
were trank darts.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah,
they showed him
tranks
loading
are
up.
like a barbed fucking
Right, but there
whatever.
was-
They
were
showed them
filling
loading
up
them up, and they
stuff.
talked about how much they were going to fill it up.
Okay. all right.
I'm tranking it.
Yeah.
Anyway, the female gets all wrapped up in the fucking rope and ends up coming into the boat or the
Propeller.
thing.
Yeah.
And big blood cloud. They have to pull the fish out of the water, and then in the movie's most hideous scene.
I was surprised.
Gets dark.
Yeah,
I did not expect
I tried to warn y'all. I tried. I
It's like-
couldn't explicitly say how bad it was going to be, but I tried to
It's
warn
like
you guys.
horrible from the start because the whale's trying to like kill herself because she's like, no, don't take me away from my family.
Yeah. Because it's been established. I guess this is what Charlotte Rampling is there for. Charlotte Rampling is like basically, she's one of these people who believes that animals are superior to mankind. Look at the brain on the orca compared to the size of the brain on man.
The number of like wrinkles it had,
Yep.
which
Yeah,
is
folds.
determined.
I was going to say
folds.
the brain is going to be bigger.
It's
right.
a much more
It's a rather
intelligent creature
animal.
than us.
Yeah.
When it uses its sonar, it's heard across the globe, even though the oceans don't connect. But side, problem. So basically, these are the most benevolent kind, and the greatest. I mean, everybody thought it was the dolphin, but it turns out it's the killer whale.
Yeah.
And they mate. They're monogamous. They mate for life.
Mm-hmm.
And so he has broken up the family by catching this whale. And then in the movie's most shocking sequence, when they have it hoisted up on the boat, the baby gives birth, squirts a fucking, the baby gives birth.
The mom miscarries.
Yeah.
Miscarries, shoots, squirts. I like squirts.
Don't-
Squirts
don't-
a baby
I don't.
No.
onto
But
the
that
deck
is
of
what
the
happens.
She
boat.
pops it out.
Mm-hmm.
She pops out
I don't
the
like it,
baby.
but
There's
she does
actually
squirt it
a
out.
sound like that as the baby pops out of the mother, lands on the deck with a, and we know that through that.
Meanwhile, the dad's screaming, "You bastard!" like
that actually
screaming.
happens.
It really does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Orca
He's
comes
screaming.
out of
This
the,
close to shaking a fist.
Yeah.
yeah.
Can we
Yeah, it's
can
all
we
there.
just the animal sound, the whale sounds between the dying whale and like the mourning whale, like
And the slop
I
of the
can't
baby onto the deck.
I can't handle the sad whale noises in this movie.
Well, and it's accompanied by the
It's
most
hard.
heartbreaking score by Ennio Morricone.
yeah.
It's sad. It's fucking sad. They're
Ollie, shed a
having
tear.
a whale funeral. Like,
Holly, what happens to the baby?
oh my god.
What does he do to the
gone.
baby?
He fucking
He-
eats
How's
it.
it
He
gone?
fucking
That's not true.
the baby plops down onto the boat and he shoots it off the side of the boat with a hose.
Get that
With
thing
a
off.
hose.
Well, he's trying to oh my God, I've done something horrible here. I got to get this thing off and maybe back in the water. And so he hoses it up.
He hoses
flushes
it off.
As
He flushes
Keenan
it down
Wynn
the
says.
toilet is what he
Yeah,
does.
He does.
Flushed it
He
back
does.
into the
Back into the
ocean.
drink.
This movie's fucking death wish for orcas, isn't it?
Oh
It is,
God.
but this is the issue. The thing with the movie, it's like, who's the central character here?
Well, see this is probably my favorite thing about this movie is that it's not just animals attacking and we don't know why, or like we genetically modified them or whatever. It's the humans are the real villains of this fucking movie. They are the
We are bad.
the hero is the fucking male whale that survives, right?
I actually like your
He's the
analogy.
Charles Bronson,
It
right?
is the Death Wish.
Yeah.
It is Death Wish in reverse.
God
Where,
damn.
yeah, the whale is fucking Charles Bronson. And he's like, you. Because he actually, I think, does that at some point. He takes a
he
picture
just about
basically,
does it.
of
He does.
I've
He
heard that,
does.
like squirrels, right? When they pop up and do that little thing where they're actually they have this photographic memory.
Wait,
where they,
what?
So they're going.
Oh, yeah,
Are
yeah.
you serious?
Ching, ching.
Yeah, that's how they find the nuts that they bury.
I didn't need
They
to know that.
basically, when they look up, they are taking a mental image of what the surroundings looks like so they can remember it. So all they got to do is navigate their way back there, and they're like, oh, there's a nut right here because everything to the side of me looks exactly the same.
I heard a
Wow,
really,
I did not know
I
that.
know.
really
This is
sad
new.
fact over the weekend. Squirrels lose 60% of the nuts that they hide.
That's
Yeah,
true.
but that's
That's
good because
true.
like, that's why we have trees.
right. That's how
So,
trees and
you
everything.
know,
but
yeah.
they also just forget where they
You know
put
what?
shit.
That's their problem.
They
It
can't find
really
back
is.
if some of the landscape changes or whatever the fuck.
You know,
But
there's plenty of bird feeders in the world for them that they're raiding. Their squirrels are fine.
that's why they have
no,
to,
yeah, they'll be
because they
fine.
lost their nuts. Okay, so but the orca swims up and we see Richard Harris reflected in its big beady eye.
And it's squinting at him.
And
Yeah.
it does everything besides make that shutter noise because it
Yeah.
stops. The film
Yeah.
stops. It
Yeah,
embeds
it is
that. Yeah,
I'm going to remember you,
Right.
motherfucker.
mental picture. Got you.
This movie's ridiculous.
I kind of wish.
It really is.
I kind of wish we would have saw like a tiny little fin curl into a fist, just shake
Yeah.
above the water. Though,
Well,
right?
because like in Charlotte
That's
Ramflin's
Forbidden World
little
that we watched.
dissertation, she shows like a photo of like when
With the baby going, yeah.
when the babies are born, they have
it
hands
floats
with
down to the
5
bottom.
digits.
Yeah.
They're the closest thing to a human baby that nature has produced in the animal kingdom.
Well, there's a point in the life cycle for all mammals where all embryos are identical, and then we all branch
We're
off
all
and become our own
reptiles
separate
and-
things.
Yep.
Just mammals. All mammals, like
Oh.
at a certain point in the embryonic cycle, are identical, and then we all start grow tails or don't grow tails or grow,
Mhm.
But there's a point where you cannot distinguish a dog or a horse or a human in the embryonic cycle. They're all identical.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that was actually true.
They did a Star Trek episode about that, I think. So, all right, back to Holly's point
Which one?
that this movie is ridiculous.
Oh, yeah, it sure is, Colin.
What are you talking about?
Well, 'cause
what
that-
are you
well,
saying, Holly?
At this point,
I'm sorry, did we not establish that what we're going for here? This is going to be a vengeful whale? That this whale is going to
No,
get
no.
revenge on a man?
revengeful whale, as Richard Harris puts it. In
Yeah,
this
I'm
movie.
sorry,
I
yeah,
believe he
revengeful.
calls him a revengeful whale.
Yeah.
And we know that
This
because
is a
of
whale
his
revenge movie.
first victim that we get. I forgot his name.
Keenan Wynn.
What's the name of the movie? Like,
Doesn't matter.
whatever. He didn't win, but he goes over to
Who
cut
was
off.
the first victim? Was it the old salt guy?
Yeah,
that's
Okay.
Keenan Wynn.
Okay.
he goes
Okay,
over to
yeah,
cut
yeah.
down the female because they're being bombarded by the. Should we give him a name? Who the male whale? Who's
Orca. It's on the fucking poster.
well, sure. All right, by Orca, who's slamming into their boat and everything. And so Richard Harris starts freaking out. It's like, get that thing off my boat. He tells Wynn to go up there and cut it down, and so he does. And it's like, you okay? It's like, oh, I'm fine. As he's scaling the mast to come back down, and what the fuck does the Orca do? But just like
Breaches the water.
like
and, yeah.
it feels like the way they shot it. It feels like it jumped 20 feet to grab this guy.
Yeah. I also like the fact that, like, this movie, every time that the Orca is going to do that move, which it does several times,
Yes.
you see the
A
shot
wind-up.
of it propelling itself
Yes.
through the water toward the surface, and then there's the shot of it
So you
like
can be like,
breaking
oh,
the
shit.
surface. I'm like, ah!
Mm-hmm.
And all right, let's talk about special effects for a moment. Because it eats maybe like 3 or 4 people in the course of this movie. Jumps up out of the water and grabs them off boats, land,
Yes.
whatever. We never really see this very clearly.
It's all in the
Basically,
editing.
It's a shot of, I mean, this is old timey kind of filmmaking where you see the guy hanging off the mast and he's like, oh, and there's a snap zoom on his face. And then there's the shot of the orca's teeth,
Yep.
right? Going,
Yeah.
"Ah." And then the next shot is the whale plunging into the depths, carrying something in its mouth that kind of resembles a Ken doll.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I dig it.
Yep.
I like it. I think given some
'Cause
of
it's
the
real.
things
'Cause
we've
it's on
watched,
screen.
yeah,
It happened.
I think for 1977, it looks pretty good for the most part. I mean, the stock. I more have an issue with like the obvious stock footage in between stuff, where it's like that. This could be like Blue Planet for all I know right now.
Or
you
just
know?
the constant
Were they-
use of that one
I was
fucking
gonna say
whale
the,
jump.
yeah, the one jump that they use like 8,000 times.
Oh my
But
Yeah.
they use it in the most fantastic
It's awesome.
punctuation of all time because this orca, now having singled out Richard Harris, is like, I'm going to make this motherfucker's life hell.
Mhm.
Like, it takes it personal. Like Jaws
Yeah.
4 said
Yeah.
this time it's
This
personal,
time it's
but
personal.
Orca totally beat it to the punch.
Orca's like the first time. It's
Yeah.
personal.
It
Yeah.
like swims up to the because eventually, you know, Richard Harris goes to town.
Yeah, he
or whatever.
docks.
Because they're in Canada. It's Newfoundland. Where are they at?
Yes,
Newfoundland. Yeah.
And he's like, "Thank God that's over with."
Yeah, he's like, I go to my little like coastal community where I have
Mhm.
my house on stilts by the fucking ocean side because that's what you do.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And the fucking orca comes in, and not only does it sink like all the other boats of all the other fishermen, because
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I'm with you, Holly. I hear.
Well, yeah, because he can.
I'm picking up what you're laying.
He's
down.
looking at like a genocide factory, right? So he sees these other boats and he's like, "It's just fucking murder weapons for my entire kind."
Is
so
that what
I
he's
get
thinking?
it. Why? What else would he be thinking? Like, what other reason would he have to?
Well, that's what they say later.
know?
It's just like he destroyed those boats and left yours alone because he wants you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, imagine the thought process there. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I'm coming up and I got to get this motherfucker to come after me.
How can he tell just from the bottom? Did he watch it get docked? And he's like, I know that's the
I know
boat.
the barnacles.
I know that's that boat I don't want to attack.
Yeah.
So I can attack anything
This one
else.
doesn't say Bumpo.
Yeah.
I can read.
Yeah.
Yeah, because as they said, the whale followed him when he
True.
anchored, so he knows which boat is his.
Yes, he did push his dead wife onto shore.
Yeah.
Right, he
As
does.
a fucking fuck you.
Well,
I'm still here.
And that scene is scored to the same Ennio Morricone like ballad, which is still when Ennio Morricone was using the wailing woman vocal that he used in a lot of his 70s giallos and his westerns. So, but it's the same music that we get during the whale love scene that takes place earlier in the movie.
Forgot about
The cold open is a whale sex scene.
It is.
Yeah. And I told you all it was important to the story. I don't think you believe
It's
me.
a ballet of
I know.
whale
Yeah.
sex.
Yeah, with well, basically, it's just a lot of rubbing
Yeah.
set to this beautiful music.
You
Well,
make it
as-
sound creepy.
Well, as you put it earlier, Colin, before we started recording, is they were frolicking. They
Frolicking in the deep.
They were
They just splashing water at each other like,
quite literally frolicking together.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you didn't know you wanted to see this
Oh, I didn't. I
until
didn't.
you saw
we're
it.
here to tell you you don't.
No. Yeah.
So he starts sinking boats, which I always like the fact that like all these other boats are such shitty boats because he just has to hit them once and punctures them and they sink. When he eventually does attack the Bumpo, you can keep hitting that thing as many times as you want. You may spring a leak here or there, but goddamn it, you're not going to sink the thing right up. But the Orca it's displaying its Hannibal Lecter like fucking intelligence. It comes up and it ruptures. It like leaves the water to bash the fuel lines that this place has.
Yes.
So this is okay. The community is set on like a hillside,
Right.
Mhm.
There's shanties
down,
built
yeah,
into
Yeah.
the hill.
right down toward the inlet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can see up the hill, and up the hill there's all these houses and a fuel.
Refinery.
Is it a refinery? Just the depot?
It's like a refinery. I'm sure.
Well, they're not refining anything there.
Whatever.
This
It
is where
looks
they
like
get
it.
And
It's
but
the
all the
depot.
pipes, it knows like if I fucking break these, goddamn it, I'm putting these guys in a pickle because
It blows up the whole fucking
It
village.
said that. It said that in subtitles, actually. I don't know if you guys know that.
Oh man, I wish there would have been subtitles for like what the whale was thinking. That would have
It's
been
like critters.
hilarious.
It's just like, yeah.
You realize, listener, when you watch the movie appears to be from the point of view of Richard Harris, but it's lying to you. It's actually Death Wish for killer whales.
Yes.
Yep.
And this is
It
what
really
this
is.
It's amazing.
This guy is like, I'm going to take these motherfuckers out by destroying their economy.
Yes.
And to do that, I have to, first of all, ruin the fuel line. You're like, we think that's bad enough. But once the thing catches fire and it burns all the way back up the hill to the fuel depot, and the fuel depot explodes in flames.
Because excuse me, it's two separate things. He knocks out the fuel line, then he goes to a little shack on a dock, and for some reason he knows there's a lantern in there that he can light on fire, and knocks the pilings of that down so that he can start a fire to then light the gas on fire.
I like how delicate he is about it too, because he just like bumps the gas
Yeah,
line
it's
a
like,
little bit. He's not like particularly destructive with that part
He
of the
doesn't want-
process.
He
Drink
knows.
it.
It's
Yeah.
like he knows the points, the
Yeah.
weak
Yeah.
points in
Yep.
it. He's like, I just need to hit it here.
Bump. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This is
Smart whale.
his revenge plan has taken a lot of consideration, which I'm sure in the whale's mind he figured out like that because it has this dense web of, right? Much smarter than us. It's like an alien intelligence come down or come up from
Kind of
the
looks like the alien from Forbidden World.
deep. This is very true.
It's the same like
Maybe-
Jaws. Yeah.
Yeah, they modeled it on the because this movie had been out by then. So I mean, who knows? So basically, this means that all the townspeople, the other fishermen, turn against Richard Harris. Richard Harris is kind of remorseful
Sure.
for what he's done.
Makes a
Yeah.
pretty good speech about it.
What's he say?
I kind of like it. He talks about how he built a scarecrow,
A scare whale.
a scare, sure, yes, a scare whale of himself, apparently, with his little shawl and everything.
Because everybody keeps telling him, it's like, that whale's coming
whale's
for you.
That's your whale.
He's like,
it's
you're
like, it's not my whale.
Yeah, your whale's still out there.
I know that scene wasn't meant to be cute, but it was kind of cute that he made that.
It's kind of cute. It's like he doesn't want it to be lonely, so I'll stick here with you. But he's down at the North Point, and he was gonna shoot it, and he's talking to
He's gonna shoot it in both eyes.
Both eyes. But then he talks about instead I was gonna. I knew when the point came I couldn't do it, so that I'd look it in the eye and ask it to forgive me and tell him I was sorry, and I really was sorry. And he does it in such a convincing way where I'm just like, oh shit. All right, it does feel like he had remorse.
Yeah,
for this
and he was
whole
going
thing.
to ask the whale for forgiveness.
Yeah,
because the whale will totally understand him. I mean, why not? This whale is basically a human obsessed with revenge on one side, and on the other side, you have a man slipping further and further into his own obsession.
Insanity.
Yeah, but this is the thing. It's in this movie. And this is going again to Holly's point that this movie's ridiculous. It's about two egos that are that eventually obsess to the point of being insane, and one of them is a killer whale.
Yeah.
Okay. So Bo Derek is in this movie.
Yeah.
True.
Every man's fantasy of the 1970s,
I know
1980s.
I know she's like hot stuff and Bond girl, whatever.
Well, she wasn't a Bond girl.
Well, she was in a Bond movie, wasn't
she wasn't.
I thought she was.
No. Bo Derek?
Wasn't she in a Bond movie?
Negative.
She was a
She in that,
Dudley
what was
Moore
that
girl.
movie? 9?
Yeah, in 10,
Yeah.
which was
10.
10.
Is that what I'm thinking of?
She was
Is that what I'm thinking of?
perfect 10.
Yes, yep.
Is that what
But-
I'm
I
thinking
see
of?
that poster of her like running on the beach. I used to
Yeah.
see that all the time when I
Uh-huh.
went to the movie store, and I was like, "What is this movie?"
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking
She's got a
of.
culturally appropriated dreadlocks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was her
Yeah.
thing for a while.
No. That's Bolero. That's
Oh, is that-
wait, is that the one? Right? Bolero. She's on the back of the. Is it a black horse?
I don't know if I've
No,
ever seen a
dreadlocks?
movie.
No, in 10.
She's
She's running on the
dreadlocks in
beach.
10?
She got dreadlocks.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
She was married to John Derek, who was like at least 40 years older than her. That
Jesus.
was what
Yikes.
became
Oh, and
that-
now
yeah.
she's married to John Corbett, who's younger than her.
She's
Yeah,
married
we'll
to
say
John
that.
Corbett?
Yeah,
I did not know that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to being married to...
Wasn't she in Tommy Boy?
Fuck, yeah, that's
She
what I was going to
was.
say.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure that's the only movie I've seen of her
Well,
in.
back in the
What's his
1980s,
name?
in this era, she was like
What?
The
the
dad.
it girl in what? Tommy Boy? It was
Yeah.
Brian Dennehy.
Brian, I was going to
Yeah,
make the
yeah,
joke.
yeah.
She's married to Brian Denny, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's, yeah. She was also re-teamed with Richard Harris in one of the 80s. Well, I don't say it's the biggest bomb, but a movie that was not regarded well. But apparently, if you want to get glimpses of Bo Derek au naturel, you need to check out a movie called Tarzan the Ape Man.
I've heard about this movie. Heard
Yeah.
about it.
Where I think she's
Yeah.
married to Richard Harris in that movie,
Jesus.
and then she ends up going off and fucking Tarzan.
Like you
who,
do.
You know,
Yeah.
he's got bananas and monkeys.
He's got a banana already.
She looks pretty ruddy and windblown in this movie. What is
I
up
know.
with her? Like, did she get sunburned before filming this
I don't
movie or
know.
something? Why is her face so fucking red?
Is it-
through this
I think
whole
it's
movie?
windburn. I don't
Yeah.
think it's.
But like, why is she the
Windburn
only
in-
one
In
windburned?
Nova Scotia.
It might be. Yeah.
It's some severe fucking windburn, man.
Her face bugs me. I'm sorry. I know she's like
She's got a...
hot to most guys, but I think she's weird
She's
looking.
very young. She has a very...
This
like
is
a big
younger.
face.
Yeah, this is younger Bo Derek.
This is
You gotta-
younger Bo Derek.
You got to
She
give her
gets
till
older,
like
yeah.
1981 or 80 or whatever. She came into her own.
Age her a little bit, season her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Season her.
All right.
Fucking seasoned
Turn
and
that
weathered in
spit.
this
Make
fucking
sure
movie.
she's fully
Right.
roasted on all angles.
Yeah. Bo Derek is part of Richard Harris's crew. He also has Robert Carradine, super young, pre-Revenge of the Nerds Robert Carradine. And there's some guy named Paul who
Yeah.
looks like he should be in an Italian movie. He was in the jungle, but it turns out he wasn't. Is there not? And yeah, because Keenan Wynn is dead. And so because that they get forced out of town, basically they get run out by the fucking whale.
Well, and the town as well.
Do we
The town's
talk
like,
about? Oh,
if
what
you go to
was
the
his
bus
name?
station, you'll
Olmec?
find there's no tickets for you either.
Will Sampson? Did we talk about Will Sampson?
Yeah, Chief.
Oh, Chief,
Yeah.
yeah.
Chief from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Will Sampson shows up in this movie. What the fuck else did Will Sampson do?
I feel like I've seen him in a lot of things.
He was in Outlaw Josie Wales.
Yes,
that's right.
He
Okay.
was.
Wait, was he? Or was
Yeah.
that? No, that's Chief Dan George. No, wasn't Will Sampson in that?
I thought he was.
I think he is.
I'll check.
Okay.
I feel like he has one of those faces that you've seen in a million things. You know,
Well, he's
Yeah.
been in several westerns.
Yeah, he's a Native
Yeah.
American actor who he's the guy who throws the fucking toilet through the wall and or through the window.
he was in the Outlaw Josie Wales.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. But he talks like Yoda when we first meet him, right?
Does
He
he?
had like
Yeah.
some kind of like you
Very
have
stilted dialogue. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
but full of wisdom.
at this point in movie, in what was going on in movies, like
Playing into that.
a Native American role was always stilted and always had that like Yoda knowledge. Like it was,
the
was-
ancient one who's
Yeah.
wise.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it was
They-
never just like, no, he just speaks normal, and you guys are making it. talk
Yeah.
like,
yeah.
You, I have
Which-
knowledge for you,
Which
white man.
which brings me to one of my biggest problems with this movie is nobody speaks with a Newfoundland accent in this movie, and it
What does
drives
a
me crazy.
Newfoundland accent sound like, Holly?
Well, I can't do it.
Is it like you're in the yard, not too far from the car? No,
That's
that's
Boston.
That's Boston.
Boston. That's a New England.
No,
accent.
like it's
like
something.
you're from New York.
It's something in and of itself. It's kind of Irish sounding, but not
As you
really.
mentioned
Like,
that, and I'm just like, I don't know what that sounds like.
no, like I have family in Newfoundland. Shout out to the cooks, but I love you guys, but I can't understand a goddamn word they're saying. They're
Oh, so they're like
Yeah.
really heavy. Like,
It's
oh,
a-
do
it's a-
this, do
it's a
this, go on
hev-
the thing. And
no,
then
it
not
is
like
a-
the guys in
it's
Snatch.
a heavy accent.
yeah.
You kind of. It's a heavy accent. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Doug's.
So the remainder of this movie is no. The thing that triggers it. So basically, Richard Harris is like, I didn't mean the thing any harm, and he has a connection with the orca because it turns out that Richard Harris can empathize with the beast because his wife and child were killed by a drunk driver many years ago. We find out through like these bizarre flash frames and like
That
we
was
weren't
a
sure
weird
what it
reveal.
That was weird.
That was a weird reveal.
Yeah.
executed with finesse and sensitivity by the
A
filmmakers.
deft hand, as they say. Yes. Totally.
Yeah,
Right there with you.
you might call it a fucking hammer or a bludgeon, but so after then the orca like attacks his house because of course it's built on stilts, and you get like the movie's big special effects set piece.
This is one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Yeah.
I really like this set piece.
What happens?
So Bo Derek she fell down when their boat was attacked, and she apparently broke her leg from like mid thigh down to ankle, and she's fucked up. So her and Paul have been shacking up in their house that he's rented, and so at some point,
Yeah, apparently they all live together.
yeah, in walls you can see through pretty easily.
Yes. Thank you for
noticed
noticing
later
that.
on.
Thank you for
And I was like, holy
noticing
shit, you
that.
can see through everything.
They're like wicker walls.
Yeah.
Like it's
Not
weird.
very private.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
70s. Yeah.
Not
And
at
we've
all.
already established that they're fucking. So
I assumed that was just like, you know how like a fire station, like firemen stay in the fire station for their job. I assumed that this was like the house they like their base camp house
Sure.
for before they go out on the boat.
Sure.
That's I
What
assumed.
happens in the
Not a lot
house?
of privacy. but I mean, she's hanging out in the house. And again, we get another orca attack scene. But again, like we said earlier, the house is built on stilts to go right into like the little inlet that is in the town, and the orca just starts fucking plowing through all this stuff, all the
Yeah.
stilts that are holding up, and so it starts falling into the fucking inlet, and so the house is just falling in, and Bo Derek's getting
We got the tilted
tossed
set
down, the tilted
thing
set
going
and
on.
everything, and it's
Yeah.
starting to break in half.
Everybody's slipping down toward the water.
Right, and they're throwing shit at her,
Mhm.
like grab the rope and we'll pull you back up and everything. And Richard Harris is falling down the other end and all that stuff. It's a pretty good scene. Like I like what everybody's doing in this scene. And
We got to get the girl out. And then
Yeah.
the fucking orca swims up and fucking bites her leg off.
exactly,
And then we see it carrying it away in its mouth. I love that.
And the
Bravo.
close up of the bloody stump afterwards.
I
and they
love it.
yeah.
Quickly,
I enjoyed that
PG,
immensely.
throw the
Yeah.
sheet over
Yeah.
the blanket.
I thought it was a good scene. I was
Yeah.
like, this it's pretty good. It's tense.
I liked it.
Yeah, it
Sean,
worked
I
for
would-
me.
Have you seen a movie called Beethoven's Second? Did this remind you a lot of a scene in Beethoven's Second when Beethoven saves Rice from sexual assault?
It has been a while
There's-
since
they're
I've
out-
seen
they're out-
Beethoven's
they're out on
He
the-
pulls
they're on the-
down. It's the
They're
same
on,
scene.
Yeah, they're on the party porch.
Yeah.
And he starts taking out like the pegs
Because
holding
he's
up
chained
the porch.
to it,
Yeah,
and he pulls
yeah,
it out, and
yeah.
the whole front of the house comes down.
Yeah.
It's the same
God,
scene.
you're telling me that Beethoven second ripped off Orca the killer whale?
It's entirely
I
possible.
would like the filmmakers of Beethoven's Second to explicitly
Yeah,
say
I
this.
bet it is. bet it is.
But,
'Cause
like,
it existed.
They're like,
in
same
that movie, it's more preposterous that a dog could pull down the front of a house.
That's a big deal.
I mean, yeah, but
Big
still,
dog.
it's still. What kind of structural integrity of your house if a dog can pull it down by being chained to it?
It's not good.
Yeah,
What are we
that's what I'm
talking
saying.
about? Man's best friend or
No, this is a normal dog.
oh,
It's a
in
Saint
Beethoven's
Bernard,
Second,
but it's
yeah.
a
Let's
normal
say Bernard,
dog.
Big dog.
Yeah. So because of this is the moment that Richard Harris goes like, okay, fine, that's right. The thing wants me, and I have to fight him.
I'm sorry, you're not putting enough heart into your representation of
Sean,
how
do
Richard
better.
Harris was yelling at this orca. It's like, all right, you bastard!
That's right.
You revengeful bastard!
There it is.
You want me? You win!
Yeah.
He's yelling off the end.
I was kind of.
Yeah.
It felt like that there was this. It felt like there was a scene where he would just be standing alone and be like, "If you want me, come and get me." But like, it seems like they cut that.
Spinning in circles like
Yeah.
Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Yeah.
I actually think.
What are you waiting for?
I think he said the same line like in ADR twice. This whole movie is ADR'd,
the
by the way.
whole thing.
Yeah, because probably the wind. It's all on location.
The
or
wind, the
whatever.
water, everything.
So the last third of the movie gets Charlotte
It's a
Rampling,
third.
who has very oddly placed voiceover.
Mm.
Like at different points in the movie
It's a
to
bizarre
kind of
choice.
segue into the next scene. It's like,
Yeah.
I met him and blah, 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 blah. I found him very attractive. And because there's nothing in the characters that would actually tell you this except for her voiceover. He was a rugged man who wanted to do this and go off and fight the fucking beast. And he knew, whatever.
Yeah.
It's that kind of like it's a literary epic. Like Moby Dick, your other great
Yeah.
man versus whale, or
It's like
Old Man in the Sea.
Spacek in Badlands, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, but
one
that
of
one
them.
at least is consistent.
Yes,
This is
throughout
from
the
her
movie.
point of view, and that's the thing.
And it happens
in
like
this
twice.
one, the movie can't decide if it's she's telling the story about this guy that she knew who went off to fight a killer whale, or it's a movie about a killer whale who's trying to get revenge on the people who killed his wife and kid.
Or about a dude who's facing past trauma and relating it to a killer whale who's attacking him.
Yeah, I understand you, my brother. Yeah, he should have said something like that. So Will Sampson, Paul, the fucking guy, who ends up, of
And the
course,
fucking guy.
because he gets killed, right? Like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
And Charlotte Rampling and Richard Harris go on this sea voyage then, which is basically this is a Frankenstein at this point. Like,
Yes.
that was the closest analogy that I had. The monster keeps leading them further and further north.
Mhm.
At no point do they go like, well, we're going to bait the fucking thing and bring it in and then we're going to
Yeah.
shoot it. Like Jaws, right? This
Yeah,
is
what would
the
happen if they
opposite
just
of Jaws.
stopped?
Yeah.
Would it keep going?
Right?
Realize it wasn't following them anymore and come back? Like, they should have done some testing here.
Yeah. It keeps leading them north into the iceberg.
I think
This is where we realize they're all idiots.
For me, that's I think what took it to like a more absurd level. Like I say, it's a ridiculous movie because it's a revengeful whale. I'm sorry,
Yes.
but I think the most ridiculous part is that these people are actually letting a whale lead them out into the middle of fucking nowhere in Antarctica. Like it's just
Yeah, they're all
It's
dumb.
ridiculous.
That would be the Arctic.
I'm sorry, the Arctic. You're right.
Are they
The Arctic.
Into
Like-
Newfoundland. No, I have no idea.
They're away from Newfoundland, like to the Arctic Circle. Like
Yeah.
it's out in the middle of fucking nowhere.
They're very dumb.
Into
Why
the
would-
iceberg.
Why?
Well, this is where it crosses into like Moby Dick territory, right? Because
Yes.
like Richard Harris has become so obsessed with like
Yes.
just finishing
He's
this
Ahab,
that
yeah.
and he's the captain, so they're kind of all just like, well,
Mutiny,
Yeah,
motherfuckers.
he's
You're
trying
gonna
to do-
They do
die.
it way too late.
There's a
They
little
mutiny
bit
too
of a
late.
mutiny because Will Sampson's like, he points a gun at the captain. Like, I'm turning this around. We
One-
don't have enough
yeah.
fuel. We're going back for like a second, and then
Way too late.
it's
Yeah,
like, whoa,
way
whoa,
too
whoa!
late.
There's an iceberg that's like coming at us against the tide because, of course, the orca is like pushing icebergs at the
I
boat.
love that.
This is like
Yeah.
Austin Powers and the dude on the fucking
The steamroller.
the
I was thinking
steamroller.
the
I'm
same
just like,
thing.
It's gonna be an hour before this thing gets to you.
Yeah,
Like,
I was thinking the same
It's like,
thing.
look out the window there, a mile away. It's not that far, but there's a slow moving iceberg.
right.
Yeah.
What's this gonna do?
Yeah, we see the orca like hitting the thing. And at this point, I was asking myself, because of the dour tones of the Ennio Morricone music,
Yeah.
we got Richard Harris has become obsessed, much like Dr. Frankenstein, with I have created this thing. At least it's anger, right?
Yes.
And that I have to finish this, even though this is ridiculous, but okay, and I'm going to endanger the lives of these other people on my boat in order to do it. I completely forgot what my point was here. But this was where I was asking myself, like, what do I want to happen here? Do
Yeah.
I
Right.
want Richard Harris to kill the orca and survive? Do I want the orca to kill Richard Harris and get revenge? Like what? I'm kind
Right.
of curious
Yeah,
what you guys were thinking at that point. In the
I was
movie.
honestly thinking the same thing when we were watching it.
Yeah.
I was like, what do I really want to happen right now? What do I need to happen right now?
Who is
At
your
that-
protagonist?
I mean, at that point in the movie,
point?
I'm like, well, they're all idiots. I hope they die.
Yeah.
That's where it got to because whatever they were trying to set up earlier on, like once you reveal that your characters are just being morons, I'm just like, well, they should die then.
Yeah.
I will not be sad if they die because they all got themselves in the situation where they drove hours following a damn whale, ended up in the Antarctic, and are now going to freeze to death. So you know what? Fine.
Yeah.
So I'm okay if they die. At this point, I'm like rooting for the whale. I'm like, yeah, kill them. They deserve it.
Eventually, hit the boat enough times to sink it. Will Sampson, does he get killed? I can't remember.
He does.
Yeah, he does.
What happened to him?
He get buried. He gets buried by the avalanche.
got buried.
Avalanche,
That's
because
right.
when the ship crashes into the rocks, like the avalanche kills him. Charlotte Rampling gets onto an iceberg. Richard Harris does, and he's like, "I'm going after this fucking thing with the harpoon." He's trying to harpoon it, but the whale is smarter than him and gets him separated on a little ice floe, and then it's able to Jaws like jump up onto the thing and tilt the thing like a teeter-totter.
Yeah.
So he falls down almost into its mouth, but this isn't Jaws.
No.
So he falls into the water, and the fish just kind of like circles around it for a while, and then tail slaps him into the rocks, which kills him, and we're like, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And he sinks to the bottom. The whale has gotten its revenge. I did appreciate that there was the sound in the big pullout because Charlotte Rampling is like out there by herself, that there was the sound of a helicopter.
Yes.
Because Will Sampson had called for the helicopter ahead of time.
Yeah.
That it's like, okay, we don't see the helicopter, but at least they thought to put it on the soundtrack.
Right.
So
It's like,
she will survive.
They're like, well, what happens to her?
So my question is, does the whale survive?
I don't think so.
Because he does get harpooned and he's bleeding all over the place.
And they made it a point earlier on when he pointed out that if they go to this particular area of water, that it's going to be so much ice caps that the whale will not be able to breach the water and breathe.
What
so
does it say? He says ice cuts both ways.
Yes. Yeah. So he's thinking that it's going to get trapped and not be able to breathe and it's going to die underwater. And they kind of allude to that happening because they keep showing it going up and trying to get air and it keeps hitting ice.
And this is after Richard Harris gets killed.
This is the end of the movie.
Yeah, well, we're like, how come there's not credits?
Yeah,
but it's because we see the whale swimming through ice-covered,
Right. And because they go on for a little too long, I would believe that they're just like, it's trapped.
Yeah,
so
it's
the
trapped.
message, this is a heavy fucking
Is
movie that
revenge
you
is a
brought
futile
here
business?
tonight, Michaela, because, when you go off, what is it? When you go off on a quest of revenge, dig 2 graves.
Right.
How does it go? What's the actual saying?
That's fine.
I mean, that sounds right.
I was going to say it sounded right to me. So
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's fucking deep. So basically, there is no salvation for either the whale. Well, I guess does kill the guy, but then the whale is expected to be dead after the credits.
Ever since Circle of Iron, Colin, you've been very deep on these podcasts.
We got to read it. This is.
I think you locked into
But
something
we're in
on
the
that
1970s. In the 1970s, everybody was really high when they were making movies or tripping on acid, and everything had meaning. And like it was, this is before Spielberg ruined movies by making the summer blockbuster, the popcorn entertainment film, which we have today.
That man is just constantly ruining things.
I know. Ruined it.
Goddamn.
Ruined film forever.
Yep.
Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, people
That's
think
right.
he's
Blame him.
some big thing, but he ruined it.
No. Even his contemporaries, Brian De Palma's yelling at him. Well, that was George Lucas. Okay, anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because we all care what George Lucas thinks. Yeah.
So that brings us to the climax of Orca, the killer whale. Is there anything we need to go back and address before we summon our mailman and give you tell you whether or not you should watch this film?
I don't know. I think we hit every.
I think that's everything.
Every ridiculous point.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're gonna do a little thing where we're gonna summon our mailman. We're gonna read some of your mail, and then stick around because we're gonna tell you if you should watch this movie. But first, Igor, bring us the mail.
Masters, the mail. I've got the mail. So many letters. Our followers are rising.
Thank you, Igor.
Looks like he's got a little harpoon in his head.
Oh,
like that
people have
turtle?
shot at him.
Oh, yeah.
Like he gets out every now and again.
Or
I'm
like
not
that
surprised he's got a
gator with
bullet
the
in him.
knife in
gator
its
with the knife in
forehead.
his head.
Yeah.
Oh, he goes out and people are shooting at him.
Yeah, he
When
gets
he
out every
escapes
now and
from
again.
the
and
Igor house out the back.
I mean, if you didn't know what that was and you saw
I'd
that,
shoot
in the
at it.
Oh,
neighborhood,
absolutely.
Why people
Yeah.
have in this neighborhood, landlocked neighborhood, they have a harpoon? I
Yeah.
don't understand why.
that
Do you
reminds
think
me
you got to some water around here?
a thought that I had while I was watching this movie. Like, you're seeing all this nice Newfoundland, geography and people living by the water. Do you ever think that, like, there's people who live in that scenario, that location and geography, that watch films and they're like, man, look at that fields of wheat. I wish I could live there.
No. I'm going to say they probably don't.
This is. I pulled up a picture. This is my great uncle,
Like what?
Robert, and that's their house. In
fuck
Newfoundland.
them.
Yeah. Right on the water.
Right on the water.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because everybody
Yeah.
does, except for us.
Sure.
Landlocked, way, 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 way far away.
No,
from an
believe me,
ocean.
they've visited here and they're not
Oh yeah,
envious.
we got prairie.
They're like, this is fucking bullshit.
Yeah, they're not envious at all.
You want to see lots of corn?
We got corn.
Yeah, we got corn.
We got corn.
Now, right
Then
now
you
we
go
don't.
west and they got desert. You
We
think
got-
those people
we
are
got
ever sitting there by the
mosquitoes, too.
ocean
No,
going like,
there's a reason why, like,
I
all the
wish I could live
national.
in the desert.
No, there's a reason why all the national parks in this country are on the West Coast. The closest national park to us is like 400 miles away. The Midwest has no national parks. There's a reason for that.
All right, so please come and visit us. But if
Fuck
you
you,
can't
Illinois.
do that, we'll hope that you will at least write in and tell us what
We
it's
bank a
like.
lot on
yeah,
Chicago.
I mean,
Verbally visit us.
yeah, you can verbally visit us by following along on Facebook,
Facebook.com/Saturday Night Freak Show.
on Twitter.
At Sat Freak Show.
You can get a hold of us by email,
Saturday Night Freak Show at yahoo.com.
or you can follow along on Instagram for the time of your life at Saturday Night Freak Show. Tonight, about tonight's movie Orca, MF Mad, who is the keeper
of the wall.
of the Wall of Fame. The Wall of Fame, you have to be on a film. This is about actors, directors, whatever personalities that we have talked about their movies. At least 3 of them have shown up on this show. Get their fucking plaque. Little picture with their name on it. Well, at some point, we should probably take a picture of this and actually share it with the folks
You're right.
on social media. MF Mad is the keeper of the wall. He says tonight we have inducted
Charlotte Rampling?
No,
No.
I know,
Surprised.
right?
Because Zardoz was done, right?
I was gonna.
So she's 2.
I was gonna
She's
guess
on 2.
Carradine.
You are correct, Robert
Yeah.
Carradine. But can you identify the other 2?
I know one of them is Escape from L.A.
And the other one is the Big Red One,
Oh, okay.
which we did.
Yeah.
We did both of those episodes. You can go back and check them out. Also, Keenan Wynn.
Ah.
That's right. Who played Novak? That's his name. The old curmudgeonly
Billy Connolly.
dude, old coot. Is that what you call him? In Orca, he was also the sheriff in. You ready? The Devil's Reign. You remember?
Oh,
guys?
shit.
He lost his eyes. That's right.
Oh, yeah.
He was also Captain Cully or Harpy, the voice in the Last Unicorn. Everyone that was in the fucking Last Unicorn.
That's
Fuck
like
that movie.
that's the wild card that will give you your way into the wall.
Karate Warrior 2 writes in and says, when we posted the poster for Orca, he says, that's a great font. Surely this movie is an Italian exploitation, right?
I mean, it's adjacent to that, I would
Yeah.
say. Like, it shares some of the same behind the scenes people,
Uh-huh.
for sure.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
writer.
It does have a great font, though.
Sergio Donati also wrote, he was a screenplay with Sergio Leone, Once Upon a Time in the West. And the other co-writer, whose name I'm not sure of, is Luciano, somebody. Together, those guys wrote like the Man with No Name trilogy.
Oh,
I mean, they
for a few
were-
dollars more and
Yeah, yeah. So it's and as we were going through the end credits, which was kind of fun for Sean and I to do.
Tagliati.
Yeah, Tataglia.
Tataglia.
There's a lot of
Yes,
Tataglia.
there's a lot of Tataglia.
Are doing all the Bruno Martinelli or
Yeah,
whatever.
being
Okay.
very offensive in our Italian accents.
Yes.
Margarete.
Yeah,
Sorry,
offensive.
I can't not do it.
G Money writes in and says, "Is this the one with the whale fetus?"
Oh, yes, it
It
is.
sure is.
I mean, how could you forget that?
boy.
Yes,
oh
it
my
is.
god,
You nailed it. Simon Carter says, "All I remember about this movie is a surprisingly fucked up scene of a baby orca falling out of a larger orca, a dock collapsing, and Richard Harris running around on icebergs. So either it was pretty forgettable or I'd been drinking at the time. Either one is possible."
You hit them
Sounds
all
like
the
you
major
remembered it.
points. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kirk Moore writes in and says, "Did it have a scene where whalers caught an orca's mate and cut it open, causing their unborn calf to fall onto the ship's deck with a sickening thud?"
This seems to be a thing.
Yeah.
If
People
so,
remember.
Thing.
well, he says, if so, this film definitely left a traumatizing impact on young me.
Yup.
Oh man, I can't imagine saying this as a kid. That'd be
No.
really
No.
messed up.
Oh.
Well, B-Movie Poster Vault says, "I watched it once on TV for the same reason most people did. Parentheses, I love Jaws. This
Yeah.
looks similar.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
parentheses. I've never watched it since. It was a dark, dour film from what I remember. Add in the baby shark doot doot doo splat scene. I'll avoid it. Thanks." Doot, doot, doot,
I love
doot, doot,
everyone's
doot,
different way of describing the same
Yeah,
scene.
everybody remembers
Baby
that
shark.
this is what this movie is. If you've seen
Yeah.
it, this is what you remember. Jim Otto says, "I enjoyed it. It's been a while since I've seen it." PL says, "Isn't this the movie where Bo Derek gets leg-capitated?"
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Indeed.
You're correct. Dave says he barely remembers the film, but I do remember the giant cardboard standee in the theater lobby.
Nice.
He loved that thing.
That sounds awesome. I want to see
I
it.
wonder if it was that shot on the poster of the the thing, like, you know, there's like 100 guys like trying to harpoon a. Have you seen the poster for this movie?
Yeah, I mean, there's like a lot of different posters for this
Yeah.
movie.
There's one where there's a bunch of guys like trying to harpoon this fucking
I was
orca.
I was gonna say, I thought you were gonna say it was like a whale jumping. I was like, that was the Free Willy cardboard cutout.
Well,
It
the
was-
whale in this movie did jump a lot.
Wait, I'm surprised we didn't mention Free Willy at some point.
Oh, I
this,
did
mean,
many
it's a-
times
it's
just
a-
off mic.
Yeah.
Very
It's
different
during the
movie.
Carl Bridges writes in and says, "I love it, man. More relevant now than ever about man's brutality to his fellow creatures and nature's ultimate revenge. Plus, a Morricone score."
Mm-hmm.
Not his best, but
Is
yes.
that the one you're talking about? That's
Yeah,
a good
Isn't
one. That's
there
not
like
bad.
100 dudes on that
Yeah, like
thing?
on
It's
the
like-
whale.
Yeah.
That is
It-
pretty cool.
That's a pretty good poster.
It's very Moby Dick.
And see, look, that's a poster where it says "The Killer Whale" as the subtitle.
Mhm.
Pardon me. Michael Whitaker writes in and says, "Someone needs to write a movie where Jaws and the various knockoffs face off in a giant battle.
A battle royale of all those. That'd be
Jaws
awesome.
versus Orca. Jaws versus tentacles versus Orca."
You know what you do? You have here's the pitch. You have like an aquarium, right? Like a SeaWorld type thing. And like, I don't know, like a hurricane or a natural disaster happens, right? So they're all like flooded out of their things. And so they're all just fighting in the flooded park.
Can we get the
Mhm.
grizzly in there?
Make it a zoo. There you go.
There you go. All right.
Yeah. I like it.
About last week's episode, Motel Hell, Carrie Laguille says, "Oh my God. Coincidentally, my daughter and I just watched this movie yesterday. I saw it back in 1980 when it first came out, and I knew that my 29-year-old daughter would love it."
Mhm.
Yeah.
There you go.
Fun for the whole family.
I asked, well, did she love it? We haven't heard back yet, Carrie, so we're hoping that you'll answer back. Dr. Zizmore Thanker says, "I haven't seen this movie since 1980, but I remember it as an okay Texas Chainsaw-inspired tongue-in-cheek slasher flick worth watching."
Fun times.
Okay. About previous week's episode, Circle of Iron. You remember that martial arts extravaganza that came from the mind of Bruce Lee. Grant Parrish says, so it's Kung Fu Panda?
Yes.
Apparently, Kung Fu Panda took the end of that movie and used it as the end of their movie.
With the guy with the... You know what else
There's
I
a
found?
moment-
Is there a book of mirrors in fucking Kung Fu Panda?
Or the beginning of that movie and used it at the end of the movie. There is Kung Fu Panda used something from Circle of Iron in their movie. I forgot what it was.
Well, you know, the flute, the silent flute, which is the
Yeah.
big part of the movie that
Yeah.
David Carradine uses. He used that flute in Kill Bill when he at the end. When he's
Mhm.
playing. That is
Right,
the
right,
silent
right.
flute that he's playing.
Very
Mhm.
true.
Pardon me again. Mark Packard writes in and says, so we posted a photo of Erica Creer, who was in the movie. He says, so she was the female villain in The Great Muppet Caper, right? As it turns out, no, that was Diana Rigg. That's
Lena
yeah.
Tyrell.
from Game of Thrones.
Right.
Was in the Great Muppet Caper. Well, no, Erica Creer was in Great Muppet Caper, but
That's a
not the
different
main
character.
villain. That's correct.
Okay.
About Pet Sematary. Remember when we went to see that movie, the new one?
I'm
Boy,
trying to
do we.
forget.
Well, Travis Legler also saw it. He says, I'm watching the new Pet Sematary. What the fuck is this convoluted nonsense? Stephen King did a better job making a movie coked out of his mind in the 80s. It
Yeah.
leans on the book so hard for much of the written dialogue, but then shits on the structure of the written story. You guys were dead on, balls accurate with every criticism you made of this film.
Yeah,
I don't know if people
thanks.
know this, but balls accurate is very accurate.
That's very
It's
accurate.
very accurate.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
like
thank
the
you for
most
saying.
accurate.
Thanks.
Yes.
Sometimes with newer movies like that, we worry we're all too much in our lone little basement
Yeah.
vacuum. So it's when we all hate something, we feed into are all
That's
hating
right.
it. And
It's
it
a
It's true. And
tornado
then,
of
yeah.
and then,
hate.
Yeah,
and then
the
you go
tornado
on
of hate.
Twitter and find out that everyone else in the world loved it.
Like
Yeah,
Child's
what?
Play,
Like Child's Play.
What?
which is
yeah.
a terrible, awful, horrible
It's
movie.
a bad movie.
Yeah, there you go. Karate Warrior 2 writes in and says, Hey, Saturday Night Freak Show. I know I asked about when you would be getting around a hard ticket to Hawaii. What a bust. It's terrible. Make sure you grab extra beers for this one. This is a movie that could have, should have been edited down to 10 minutes. He says he's going to try Malibu Express. So there you go. That's a warning
All
for
right.
Holly and Michaela, who are considering bringing Hard Ticket to Hawaii to our show.
It's too bad it's not another Miami connection. That's a
Hawaii,
bummer.
Malibu, Miami. This is
Yeah,
a trilogy
it's
here.
Andy Sidaris, the man, the myth, the legend, the exploitation filmmaker who has
Sure.
made. You can buy a double disc set, maybe it's more. The Andy Sidaris Connection. You don't know Andy Sidaris? You got to look up his filmography. Man was a crazy,
Suppose I do.
crazy guy from the 1980s, still working today,
Damn.
as
for
far
him.
as I know.
Mhm.
That's right. Babes and guns and explosions.
That's
his,
literally the poster of
Yeah.
like Hard
Is
Ticket to
that,
Hawaii.
is that the
yeah.
third of his
All of his
movies?
movies.
Babes
That's
Against the Explosions?
all
So-
of them.
So why shouldn't we watch it?
Yeah. Well, that one's bad. Okay. So that brings us to
What do we do here, Colin?
I was gonna say you say that like we usually
Yeah.
watch good movies. But
Oh, well, maybe who knows? You may still get your wish, and we will eventually get around to Hard Ticket to Hawaii. Hey, if you want to recommend a movie, let us know because you never know; it may show up on this program. So now we're going to go around the table. We're going to find out what we all thought of Orca, the killer whale.
Colin, what did you think about tonight's movie? Orca or Orca the Killer Whale?
Well, I appreciate you asking that question.
No problem.
Sean,
It's almost like I had to.
Yeah. I think, like a lot of the folks who wrote in, I became aware of this movie when it was on television. It had to be like the early 1980s. It was like there was Jaws and there was Orca. It was
Yeah.
like that was these are the two aquatic monster movies. I was more aware of Orca than I was of Piranha, which I think now is like there's Jaws and Piranha are the two you go to. So I think, did I see it back then? I don't know. I watched it really recently, Michaela. So that's why I kind of, when you said like, "Hey,
Stop
we're watching
watching
Orca,"
movies, Colin.
what? I don't even remember what triggered it off. Like, maybe was I on a Jaws kick already? It's been within the last year. I watched Orca for what I thought was the first time. Like, yeah, I'm finally gonna watch that, and I couldn't stand the goddamn thing. I was bored out of my mind. And she's like, "Yeah, we're watching Orca next week." I'm like, ugh.
that's your problem, Colin. It's not mine.
I know. This time around, I didn't hate it as bad as I hated it the first time, if that's any consolation. It's still, because it's not a well-made movie. This wasn't well regarded at the time that it came out. I think right now on Rotten Tomatoes, it has like a 7%,
Yeah.
It's just, it's ridiculous in the way that like Us is ridiculous or Lady in the Water is ridiculous. They come up with these ideas that are preposterous and like, I'm sorry, filmmaker, but at some point I can't go there. I can't go as far as this anthropomorphized whale, right, is thinking all of these things, like knows, hey, if I break the gas line. I'll be able to blow up the whole thing, and that way the town will force this guy out, so he'll have to fight me. And then when we get out there, I'm just going to lead him to his doom. And I get it. They're trying to go for, because it's like they don't want to be Jaws, but they do want to be Jaws, right? At the same time, but they're trying to go like, well, we're going to go based on these mythic, literary, man versus nature, man versus himself things. Like it's trying to be like the filmic Moby Dick or the filmic Old Man in the Sea, which I'm sure in the Old Man with the Sea, it's a big fish, right? That he's trying to. I haven't read it.
Marlin.
Yeah, no,
You've
it's
never
but
read
there's a lot less action in Old Man in the Sea.
Yeah,
literally nothing
He's
happens.
got that thing
whole
hooked
book.
for
Nothing
like
happens.
weeks.
I could argue. I think that not a whole lot happens in Orca.
Way more happens in Orca than in Old Man in the Sea. There is one person in the whole book in Old Man in the Sea,
Right.
and that's him.
It's the
Oh,
old man.
I
It's
get
the
it,
one
but
man.
as a filmic comparison, not a whole lot happens in this movie. Like this is kind of, it felt to me like they're going heavy on the character drama,
Yes.
Mhm.
but I don't like the character. I don't like Richard Harris, and I don't know if it's.
I don't think you're supposed to.
I know, but I don't know if it's the actor. Like I don't like Richard Harris, or I don't like his character, and so my protagonist, if the protagonist is Richard Harris, I'm not behind him really at all. I'm more, and I'm
No,
not
your
really.
protagonist is the whale.
Is the whale?
It's
yeah,
not
I
Richard
suppose.
Harris. It never is him.
Yeah, but I'm not a whale. At least I could get behind Charles
Have you
Bronson.
seen? Yeah, but that's a story you're familiar with, though. So you're just transferring it to a different type of character.
I know, but that's the thing. I can't.
You can't
relate to
have
the whale.
empathy
This is
for
what-
other living
this
things.
is
Is what you're
I'm
saying.
It's like it's trying to say like have empathy for the whale as it attacks this guy who fucked with it, and it's like I don't know. At some point, the guy is right. He's like, well, it's a fish.
It's not a fish,
Not a
though. That's
fish.
actually incorrect. It's not a fish. It's a mammal.
It's a mammal. I thought the whole movie was ridiculous, and it just was like it was. I mean, at some point, I was thinking about what am I going to say about this movie later, and I wanted to use the phrase. I'm sure I've used it before, but I've always read this in film criticism. Edited with a chainsaw. The idea, I mean, like some of the scenes when the thing attacks, because they don't have the footage.
Yeah.
They can't pull it off.
They
It's
can't
just
do it.
like these, like Forbidden Planet did, I guess, to a more effective method.
They did.
This is like you see, fragments, and your mind's supposed to put together and fill in like what actually happened. I don't know. I was.
The bare minimum, though, of what's the least amount of shots we can use to create this guy getting killed?
Yeah.
Especially when Carradine gets killed. It's like,
Yeah.
it's three
I can't
shots.
even remember.
I don't even know.
That's why I'm saying I don't remember what happened to these characters
Yeah.
because I don't recall actually seeing it.
Yeah.
When you're watching the movie, it's like, oh, I guess he's dead. Maybe she's dead. Maybe he's dead.
Yeah.
I don't know because I didn't really get a good look at it, and it didn't leave the right impression. It's like we didn't have enough footage of fuck it. It's like Jaws. People would go see it anyway because it's a giant killer whale. I don't think that I'd recommend Orca the killer whale. Because it wasn't fun. I suppose it was so dour. And I'm not saying that it has to be fun to be recommended, but this type of thing, there's not like a thrill to it. It's like you get a pretty ghastly like opening to this movie,
Yeah.
and then it's like you're on a terminal kick. This is someone obsessed with like killing themselves, and everybody apparently that they're with for the rest of the movie, and it's like, man, but it's not doing it. I mean, everybody thinks that they're doing like a really Shakespearean. It's Richard Harris. They're all doing really, really good work. But it's not like entertaining to watch. So I don't know. Yeah, I think it'd skip as far as Jaws knockoffs go. Would I give the edge to Grizzly? That's kind of hard, but I don't know. I wouldn't say watch Orca the Killer Whale. Doesn't matter. You're not gonna be able to find it anyway. It's like hidden in the darkest recesses.
You can rent it.
of the
Amazon.
internet.
Yeah. I was like, it's on Prime. That's how we watched it,
Okay,
Colin.
there you go. All right, Holly, what'd you think of Orca the Killer Whale?
I'm done.
We talked about how ridiculous this movie was, and honestly, like the ridiculousness of the whale being vengeful and going after people, and I enjoy that part. Like I thought that was the fun stuff, like the ridiculous things the whale is doing to get back at the humans. Like to me, that's the fun stuff. That's the funny part. I think the absurdity of the people like indulging the whale in his fucking mind games and stuff, that's where it loses me. It's like, okay, I can accept them making the whale smart enough to knock like a gas line and blow up a plant. Like that's funny to me. But when they start going against all reason and logic and actually like, yeah, let's go out to the middle of the fucking nowhere and have a battle with this whale. Like no, just stay on shore and shoot it. Like, really? That's where it loses me. It's like, no, let's make these people make rational decisions and just keep having the whale do these crazy things to try to like kill them. That to me, that's the funny stuff. If they had kept going with that, I probably would have enjoyed it more. But it's when people start making these stupid decisions trying to combat the whale. That's where they lose me. And I actually thought Richard Harris was kind of almost charming. I thought his character was actually one of the things that kept the movie somewhat entertaining to me. But I agree that I'm not supporting him. I'm not really supporting the whale. Like, I don't really give a shit who wins this war. Like, the fact that they both die at the end, I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, I don't really care. I'm not really rooting for anybody. So yeah, there was some funny stuff. There was some fun stuff. There was some fun attack scenes. You know, watching it as a group, we have fun with those moments. But I think watching it by myself, I would have been bored out of my mind and probably would have shut it off. So yeah, I don't think I can actually recommend Orca. It wasn't enough for me. It had some fun stuff, but ultimately it was kind of a bore fest and it lost me. So no, I can't recommend. Sean?
Jesus.
We're all dying here tonight.
We are. I think I got everybody sick. Movie's kind of a split for me. In the fact that the movie felt really split in what it actually was, because it's, you know, they go for some like kind of crazy moments with the whale. It's jumping out of the water, eating people. It's taking off legs. It's there's some ridiculous stuff. There is a baby that is delivered and sprayed off of the deck at some point. So, like, it does get to the ridiculous, but then it goes to, like, very, like a high drama later in the movie, and then we get stuck with that for, like, 20 minutes. And then, like you said, once we get to the point where the whale is leading people away and everyone just becomes an idiot and is not thinking correctly, like, they lose me there. So, thanks. You wouldn't want that back after I was done with it. But at that point, they lose me, and it's just like, I don't know. They should have. It would have been nice if they had like decided to stick with a track and go with it. I think, and I think they could have accomplished a lot more if they done that. Truth be told, tonight, I was never bored with the movie. Like, I did find Richard Harris interesting. I like him as an actor in this movie. I thought he was interesting. I like his little speech about how he felt about the whale and asking for forgiveness. I liked a lot of the stuff in this. Some good set pieces again with the house being brought down by the orca and everything. It gets ridiculous in some areas, which I liked, but it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't do enough. When it starts going to the high drama shit, I'm just like, nah, it's not what I wanted from Orca the killer whale. Like, I wanted a bit more. It also feels like they didn't get enough of what they were trying to do. Like we said, the bare minimum of some of those kill scenes, like 3 shots and you're out. I'm just like, it's.
Yeah, you're like, wait, did he die?
Yeah. We're not entirely, not entirely going for it. I was entertained, but again, certain elements took me out of it. So it's not quite enough to recommend for you to watch, dear reader. So you can probably skip Orca. I would skip Orca. I can't recommend this movie. So, Michaela.
So when we watched Man's Best Friend, we talked about how there was some like confusion about whether the dog was the protagonist or the antagonist, because that movie did not make it very clear and couldn't really decide either way. With Kingdom of the Spiders, it was pretty clear cut that William Shatner was the hero and the spiders were the antagonist. Yeah. This movie, I liked that not only was the whale the protagonist, but like it wasn't just like nature happens. Sometimes the animals attack us because we live in the same area as them. Right. It was, no, this whale has a reason for it and it will stop at nothing. Like, I don't think there are very many like nature attacks movies that are bent on revenge, and let alone like a really personal type of revenge. Like, I could totally see there being like a revenge movie that's like my habitat got destroyed, like the rainforest got cut down, like a like a Fern Gully situation or something. But like this is so
horror movie.
Yeah, it is for everyone living in the rainforest. Like, but like this is like so personal and specific, and I kind of wish that like they would have shown that this whale was like the head of the pod, and then like all the other whales got like their pitchforks and torches and like came
subtitles,
and like they
That's
all
all
came.
saying, subtitles.
But like even if like when he started attacking like the village and like knocking down like cutting the gas line and knocking down the stuff, like if other whales had shown up and started like fucking with other things, like but like they only had 2 actual whales, like live whales used in this movie, so I was like, okay, we're not gonna get more than that.
I was kind of waiting for that moment, like when they went back out in the sea. I was waiting for like all of them to start popping up to like not, so he wouldn't know which one was the
that was all anything with
just like
but anything with more than 2 whales, and it was all stock footage.
That.
So
right, so, but I was waiting for that moment.
Mm-hmm. So I like that it is like Death Wish for orcas, because like I think that's not a perspective you see very often in movies. And like
you're right.
But like so
you are right.
I mean, like at least like I get kind of tired of like animals are just attacking because that's what they do. Like how many times that movie's been made so many times and continues to be made. Like I even say like we haven't seen Crawl yet, it hasn't come out, but like they're just attacking because that's what they do, at least as far as what we know now before having seen the movie. Like there's no real reason for them to be attacking other than they're in a small confined space with that lady. So like that's, I don't know, like the fact that there's a reason behind it like there is in this movie, I think makes it a lot more interesting, and that's what I like about it. I think it's I think like it being dour, it does suffer because of that. I think if it had like not been so self-serious and maybe embraced the camp a little bit more, it would have I think it would have stood the test of time and kind of become like a cult hit if it had done that. But I get that they like this was literally like just trying to be Jaws, so they weren't going to do that. But I like it. I think it's worth like all the ridiculous things that you see happen, and because like orca whales already look so fake and rubbery, like the animatronics and the fake whales actually look really good in this movie for the most part.
They did. I kept asking Michaela, is that real?
Yeah,
is that
like,
a real whale?
There's a few times when like it's like it's
during
mostly
the whale funeral. Like,
yeah, I was like, is that real?
Yeah.
Tell me it's not real.
There's a whale funeral in this movie.
That's a real thing they do.
That is a real thing.
I believe
there
it.
was like a mom that actually had a stillborn baby that was seen carrying the corpse like on her nose for like over a week.
Right.
Yeah, I
in
read
a
about
funeral.
that.
And so like that is a thing they do. It's like I appreciate the amount of research that went into this movie and like being accurate and things like that. But yeah, like because like it's such a simple looking animal that like that looks fake already and looks kind of like a buoy, you know, like it's really easy to do animatronics for it. So I think that stuff looks pretty good for the most part. So I would recommend it. I like it. I think it's ridiculous. It's obviously like be prepared for how rough the first act is going to be. I would say like definitely like make sure you're willing to sit through that. But yeah, I would recommend it.
It is rough. I yelled Jesus at the screen a lot.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And Charlotte Rampling doesn't blink.
No,
I think that's what.
No, she doesn't.
Yeah.
She's got eyes. They're not like Meg Foster,
But they're pretty. But they're like the next step down from Meg Foster, right?
There's
You know.
Meg Foster, and then there's Charlotte Rampling.
Yeah.
True.
So that brings us to the end of Orca the Killer Whale. We'll give you a preview of next week. We're going to be watching a movie that's chosen by
Colin, what are we watching next week? Damn it.
Hopefully, we will all have recovered
Yeah, hopefully we're not
from whatever the hell this is. Next week, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to watch the greatest fucking ninja movie ever made.
What is it?
What's the greatest ninja movie ever made?
Tell us. What is it?
I don't watch ninja movies, so I don't know.
The greatest movie about ninjas ever.
What is it, Colin?
American Ninja.
I don't know anything about this movie.
You've never
I
heard of
don't
it? What? Michael Dudikoff is the American Ninja.
We watch so
Nothing.
many white guy karate movies on this
Oh,
show.
yeah.
I couldn't
I
tell
got
you.
nothing.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay. Wow. This is a canon film. That's right. I'm continuing this. Okay, you're going to love this. Fucking American Ninja. Next week on the Saturday Night Freak Show. That just landed with a thud. But, hey, Ninja fans, next week is your episode. And until then, the basement is going dark.